All right, hello there. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the 11 article presentation Getting Started with ASP.NET 5. So far I've done Getting Started, adding a controller, adding a view, adding a model, and creating a connection string and working with SQL Server Local DB. So I've got 5 out of the 11 articles done, and it's time to go on to number 6, which is accessing your model's data from a controller. Again, remember that as long as I can keep these videos decent length, all right, I'd like to do each one as just one video. So I would have 6 more videos if indeed I can do that. So this is Article 6 in the section, accessing your model's data from a controller. In this section, you'll add a new Movies controller class and write code that retrieves the movie data and displays it in a browser using a view template. All right, so one thing that we are told here is before we go on, we should build the project. And the reason for building the project is it does some work behind the scenes that may need to be done before you can go on and do other things. So if you don't build it as it says, you might get an error when you try to add a controller. So let's go in and add a new controller. All right. So I want to go back. I want to find my my controllers folder. Let's close a couple of these to hopefully make it a little easier to see kind of what's going on here. There we go. All right, so right-click controllers, choose Add Controller. Again, I'm just following the steps. What comes up next is the Add Scaffold dialog box. We want to choose MVC controller, MVC5 controller with views. Using Entity Framework. So right here, click Add. For the controller name, okay, well, let's see if we can get that filled in for us. The model class will be movie MVC.models. The data context class will be the movie DB context. And for the controller name, which now says manage login views model, which we don't want. We just want this to say movies controller. So I'm going to double check. It looks like when I first chose up here at the top, I've got the wrong name. That should have been movie there. That's probably why I got that wrong name in here. So there should be controller name, movies controller. The model class is movie, MVC, movie.models. The data context is movie DB context, MVC movie.models. And we're accepting all of the default values. Click Add. This is where the author says that if you get an error message, you probably did not do a build first. All right? So what this just did was it created the following files. It created a moviescontroller.cs file right there that we did not have previously. It also, under views, it created a movies folder. Close a couple of these. There it is. In the view movies folder, it's got a create.cshtml, a delete.cshtml, a details.cshtml, an edit.cshtml, and an index.cshtml. So what happened in here was that Visual Studio automatically created CRUD capabilities. CRUD is an acronym that stands for create, and that's the insert capability. All right, read, which is like a select capability, update and delete, which are self-explanatory. When it did this, it's known as scaffolding. Now what we have is a fully functional web application that's going to allow us to create, list, edit, and delete movies. All right, so I'm going to save, and I'm going to run the application, and we're going to see what happens. Now, when we run it, remember, it's going to bring up the index. All right, so it's going to bring up our home controller and our index file. It's not going to look any different. If we come to the end of this, and we hit slash, and we put in here movies and hit enter, this should be routed to the default index action method of the movie's controller. In other words, the browser sees this request that you see up here, this localhost : 53484 movies, -movies, it's effectively the same as though we put in localhost : 53484/movie/index. Ideally, when this does come up, if it ever does, we're going to get an empty list of movies because we have not added anything yet. Really is taking almost an inordinate amount of time. And I'll tell you what, I am in one room. Oh, there it is. While this is hopefully spinning its wheels, I want to tell you, I went out to kodaku.com.au/2017/05/21-movies, and this isn't good. I'm getting an error message. Okay, so we'll have, that's why it wasn't working. But let's go back to this anyway. All right. So 2017-05- 21-movies I'm embarrassed -to -admit I love all right. Well, what did I do wrong? Shouldn't need the HTTP here. Kodaku.co, oh, that's .com. AU 2017-05. What I did was I went out and Googled, I wanted a bunch of movies that I could put in. And I just Googled it and found this site where this person, Jermaine Lucier, came up with a bunch of movies, and I grabbed those. So that's what I'm going to use if I can get this to work. All right. And it's funny because it's spinning again. And that's the same error message that I'd gotten earlier. And it looks like it's going into a loop here. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the run. I'm going to go back to my project and take a look at it. SQL exception was unhandled by user code. So it's in my movies controller. And it could be because as of right now, I have no movies to list. I don't know, but according to this, it was not supposed to give me an error message. Although that would make sense that that would be the reason that I'm getting the error. Now, I want to check something here. I'm going to stop the run. And let's go under my app data. It has not yet created the database for me, so that's not good news. Let's save. Let's go back and do one more build. Build solution. I don't think that's what the problem is. And I'm going to try to run it one more time. It's the first time I've really run into any kind of problem like this. Not good news. And I've not created this application before, but I've created ones like this and not had a problem. But my guess is, again, I am going to get a problem or have a problem. All right. I've got a possible fix, but I have no idea if I'm going to, in this fix, if I'm going to make the situation better or make it worse. And I'm at 11 minutes, so that's not too bad. This shouldn't be taking that long to build, to be honest with you. All right, this is taking such an inordinate amount of time, and it's giving me that same error. Make sure you're using the correct server name and that the server can be reached. It is possible that before, when I started shutting stuff down here, that I turned off the server and it's not running. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to save everything. I'm going to do a file, close solution. I'm going to do a file, exit, and I'm going to start Visual Studio up again and see if that possibly can fix the problem. Let's bring back up MVC movie. Says it requires SQL. Yes, it is on the computer. All right. So again, it might be because I shut that down before, so I may have hosed myself here. I am going to do a print screen of this. And I'm going to send that out to the printer and take a quick look at it. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to pause the video to see if I can fix this problem. Alright, I've run into several problems here that I'm trying to fix, but as of right now, I can't. So I'm going to have to reboot the entire system. So even though I didn't want to do this as more than one video, I'm going to have to anyway. I want to see if I can reestablish that connection. I've tried and have been unable to do so. This is incorrect that's in here. So I'm going to have to go and reboot the system. So for that reason, let me stop the tape, and I will have to make this as a couple versions for this particular lesson 6. Sorry about that.